What's up, guys? In this episode, I go over the 1991 Art Power Plant Preamp. Stay tuned. What is up, you guys? It's your boy Louie Torres, and yes, I have a piece of metal spandex history with the Art Power Plant. Now, look at the graphic on that thing. If that doesn't scream 80s metal, you know, the only other thing close to that is literally a giant fake, you know, aqua netted out wig along with some neon green spandex with, I don't know, what were those old bodybuilding shoes that everyone wore back then? Automix, something like that, right? So funny thing. So as a kid, and I'm talking about, you know, if you'd have to be at least 40 to remember this company, and even then you know, if you were playing at 9 or 10 years old, you'd remember. But I was in my teens at that point. So, you know, here is this company Art, and as a kid, you know, they were expensive, especially if you're a poor Puerto Rican kid from Sunset Park, Brooklyn, you know? So, you know, this one kid who went to Bishop Ford High School, which is a private school, he had one, and I remember him playing it out of maybe it was a Fender Deluxe 212 combo, or maybe it was a 112, and, you know, I'm going back 30 years. So he had one, and I was just like, dude, let me just plug into that thing just to hear how it sounds. And it was just great. You know, at the time, it sounded amazing. But keep in mind, also at the time, which was great that everyone loved, was the Boss, HM2, not the HM2. What is it? The MT2, the Metal Zone. Yo, we had the Metal Zone the year it came out, and everyone was just like, that is as metal gets. And now, you know, everyone hates it because it's just, you just have to run it through the effects loop. So anyway, so I ended up using this and loved it at the time. And fast forward, you know, within a few years, you never saw anyone with that, with this preamp. So, you know, my buddy Youval, the other day sends me a message, and he's just like, bro, you have to get this. Someone's selling it, you know, in the States. He's out in Italy, so he's monitoring what's going on in the States. And he sends me a link, and it looks like and I don't know which album it was, but one of Megadeth's producers used to use this as kind of like the core preamp that they used to record. And I don't know if it was, you know, P-Cells, maybe it was P-Cells. So I was just like, let me quickly run a search on YouTube and see if anyone's using it. And a few guys are using it. The British guy, the British YouTuber, I forgot to know his name. The other guy, I think his name is Mike, always wears a hat forwards, right? Great guitarist. I think is he in Massachusetts? I don't know. So I end up seeing those videos, and they don't sound great, but, you know, for $125, I was just like, you know, you can't buy everything and make it great, or hope that it's great. You just buy things and you're just like, I hope for the best. I mean, listen, if Megadeth used it, why can't I? So I, you know, reached out to the guy. I'm like, hey, my buddy out in Italy told me about this, and he's just like, yeah, I think I actually spoke to him. And I'm like, I need to buy this thing ASAP. You know, I sent them the money, he shipped it the next day, came a few days later, again from Massachusetts. So yeah, so here's the one thing, totally 80s. Oh my goodness. But I kind of found a little sweet spot that makes this thing sound brutal. let me go ahead and plug this guy in. All right, guys. So, yo, it's like a painting. You know what I'm saying? Look, you have a blank canvas and you are given one brush. And that brush is all you have to work with. And you have an entire array of palettes that you can work with. And now you have to create something pretty with just one, because you're stuck with just, again, one palette. Yo, that's terrible. Just having one brush. So you kind of play around with it until you find something that you like. And that's what I did. So to start off with, I'm using my Kiesel Aries A6C. This has my Voodoo custom pickup. This is the Voorhees. It is running guitar into my Maxon Odie 808. Everything is set to max except the drive, which is set to 0. With the art, I'm on the red channel, so mid has to be at 0. Hey, listen, I've since added mids to my playing. Before I actually never did, but this thing is so scooped that mid has to be at 0. It has to. And then bass and treble are maxed out, okay? Which just sounds crazy, but I offset that with my KSR PA50 because not only does it have a negative feedback knob, but you can also cap out the high frequency along with the low frequency. So I have the low frequency, I have the top set to 3 o'clock, and then I have the low end set to 1 o'clock, which is completely, again, those aren't the typical settings that I use. But again, you have to work around what you currently have. And if you want to try to make it sound good, you got to tune it a little bit. But funny enough, and this has to be the heaviest that I've heard out of this thing. So if you're able, if you at some point are able to find it for $100 and you're getting into rack systems, I don't know. I would imagine this thing used to probably be $300, and 30 years ago it's probably the equivalent of $600, factoring in inflation. So yeah, it wasn't inexpensive back in the day by any means. And if you were into hardcore or anything heavy and you were tuning low, let's say a la, Merauder, then you kind of couldn't use this. And I know, I used to hang out with Saab, so he always used the JCM 800 with a TC Electronics booster line driver distortion, and that was it. And that was their tone. And he also, they used to play with C sharp standard, which is what I'm tuned to. So let's go have a listen, and hopefully, again, if you guys get the chance to find the Art Power Plant preamp from 30 years ago, and you find it, in or around $100. Again, I paid $125 for it, so let's call it $75 to $125. Get it, but just know you kind of have to play around with it. So, all right, let me stop yapping. It's a wee bit noisy too. you heard that? Yo, that sounds crazy. Yo, crazy considering the fact that, and let me just put this on standby. Yo, here's the whole thing is that, dude, you never think that anything from the 80s, late 80s, early 90s is actually going to end up sounding like that. But this thing does modern heavy metal. So again, you know, if you find something like this or find this thing, and you get it for a good price, yo, nab it. Yeah, that's it, dude. Just, you know, and just run with it. You know, throw a few pedals on there. And, you know, like I said, I found a few videos with it, but the problem is that the videos were just very, it just wasn't my style. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I get YouTubers and they're just like, oh, you know, what are you just doing the chugs? Or are you being an artist? Yo, do I look like an artiste? Come on, son. Yo, I'm all about the heavies. I don't need to play soloing. Yo, I'll hire some guy to play solos. I don't give a shit, you know? So in the end, I'm happy. I'm happy with that thing. And you're going to be happy with it too. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't, you jerk. And stay tuned. I've got some other shit coming down the pike. You got to stay tuned. You got to stay tuned. Know what I'm saying? Woo! Guys, thank you. Hope you had a great Christmas and are getting ready to have an amazing New Year's Eve. All right, kids. I'll see you guys soon.